I never thought my own wedding dress fitting would be the moment my family finally broke me. But there I was, standing on a pedestal surrounded by mirrors, watching my mother's name flash across my phone screen like a warning sign. My name is Marlo. Marley to anyone who actually likes me, and I should have known better than to answer that call. Darling, we need to discuss your engagement party, my mother said, her voice carrying that sugary sweetness that always preceded bad news. There's been a slight development. I caught my reflection wincing as the seamstress pinned another section of ivory lace. Mom, everything's already arranged. The venue's booked, deposits are paid. Yes, well, your sister just got the most wonderful news. She's being considered for junior partner at her firm, and we simply must celebrate properly. The seamstress accidentally pricked my hip with a pin, but I barely felt it. What exactly are you saying? The 23rd would be perfect for Delilah's celebration. I've already started calling people. That's my engagement party date, I said, my voice hollow. You know that's my engagement party date. Darling, be reasonable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for your sister. You can reschedule your little party for another weekend. The seamstress had stopped working, pretending to adjust something at the hem while obviously listening. I didn't blame her. This was probably better than her usual entertainment. Mom, Jonah's family is flying in from Seattle. We've had this plan for months. Well, they can change their flights, can't they? Delilah really needs this, sweetheart. You know how sensitive she is about her achievements. I closed my eyes, remembering all the times I'd stepped aside for Delilah's needs. My 16th birthday party, downgraded to a family dinner because Delilah had a dance recital. My college graduation celebration, shortened because Delilah was having relationship troubles and needed the family's attention. No, I said quietly. I beg your pardon? I said no. I'm not rescheduling. The silence on the other end was deafening. When my mother spoke again, her voice had lost all its sweetness. Marlo Grant, you are being incredibly selfish. Your sister has had every other moment of my life. She can't have this one. I cannot believe you're being so difficult about this. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me? I laughed, and it sounded slightly unhinged even to my own ears. Name one thing, Mom. One thing you've done for me that didn't somehow end up being about Delilah. I will not stand here and be attacked by my own daughter. When you've calmed down and are ready to be reasonable, you can call me back. The line went dead. I stood there, still in my half-pinned wedding dress, feeling like I was 13 again, small, insignificant, and always wrong. Do you need a minute, honey? The seamstress asked gently. Before I could answer, the fitting room door opened and Jonah walked in, his eyes immediately finding mine in the mirror. One look at my face, and he knew something was wrong. Marley, what happened? I opened my mouth to tell him it was nothing, that I was fine, but what came out instead was a sob. He was across the room in 3 strides, careful not to step on the dress as he took my hand. Your mom? He asked quietly. I nodded, tears falling freely now. She wants me to cancel our engagement party. For Delilah. Again. His jaw tightened, but his thumb kept drawing gentle circles on my palm. What do you want to do? And that was the difference, wasn't it? In all the years of giving way to Delilah's needs, no one had ever asked what I wanted. But Jonah always did. I squeezed his hand, looking at our reflection in the mirror. Me in my wedding dress, him in his worn jeans and favorite blue sweater. Both of us a little battle-worn, but standing together. I want to have our engagement party, I said firmly. And I want to stop letting them make me feel guilty for existing. He smiled, but his eyes were serious. Then that's what we'll do. Together. I nodded, already knowing this wasn't over. My phone buzzed again, probably my mother rallying reinforcements. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to answer. The Sunday family dinner tradition felt like walking into a minefield. 3 days had passed since my mother's phone call, and now I sat at my parents' dining table, watching Delilah beam as she detailed her potential promotion to an attentive audience. Of course, nothing's official yet, she said, batting her eyes modestly. But Richard, that's the senior partner. He practically guaranteed it. That's wonderful, sweetheart, my mother cooed, reaching across to squeeze Delilah's hand. We'll make sure your celebration is absolutely perfect. I stabbed at my roast beef, pretending not to notice my father's uncomfortable glance in my direction. Jonah's hand found my knee under the table, a silent reminder that I wasn't alone. Actually, Delilah continued, I was thinking we could do it at the Grove. You know, that new venue downtown. My fork clattered against the plate. The Grove was our venue, the one Jonah and I had spent months researching and finally booked for our engagement party. That's already booked, I said quietly. My mother's smile tightened. Well, I'm sure they can accommodate both events. It's such a lovely space. Both events. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You mean the engagement party you're trying to cancel? Marlo, my father warned, using his rarely deployed stern voice. Let's not do this now. Do what, Dad? Point out how ridiculous this is? Delilah doesn't even have the promotion yet. You're just jealous, Delilah snapped, her practiced poise cracking. You can't stand that something good is happening to me. Something good is always happening to you. The world revolves around your needs, your wants, your everything. Girls, my mother interjected sharply. This behavior is completely inappropriate. You know what's inappropriate? I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. The fact that you're trying to hijack my engagement party for a maybe promotion that Delilah might get. The fact that you've spent my entire life making me feel like I matter less than her. That's not true, my father protested weakly. Really? Remember my college graduation? The one you cut short because Delilah was having boy troubles? Or my sweet 16 that turned into her dance recital dinner? Those were different circumstances, my mother said dismissively. You're being dramatic. I'm being dramatic? You're the one who. Enough. My father's fist hit the table, making the water glasses jump. Marlo, if you can't be supportive of your sister's success, perhaps you should leave. The silence that followed was deafening. Jonah stood up beside me, his chair making the same harsh sound against the floor. Thank you for dinner, he said, his voice cold and formal. We'll be going now. As we walked to the door, I heard my mother's voice behind us. This is exactly why we're concerned about your engagement, dear. This sort of selfish behavior doesn't bode well for marriage. I froze, my hand on the doorknob. What did you just say? Your mother's right, Delilah chimed in, her voice dripping with false concern. If you can't even be happy for your own sister, how can you possibly be ready for marriage? I turned slowly, meeting my mother's gaze. The engagement party is happening on the 23rd, at the Grove, with or without you. If you do this, my mother said, her voice low and threatening, there will be consequences. There already have been, I replied. 28 years of them. Outside, the cool evening air hit my face like a wake-up call. Jonah wrapped an arm around my shoulders as we walked to the car. You okay? He asked. No, I admitted. But I will be. My phone buzzed, a text from Delilah. You've always been so dramatic. Don't worry, though. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly why you're really canceling your engagement party. I showed the message to Jonah, who read it with a clenched jaw. She's bluffing, he said, but we both knew better. My sister had always been skilled at spinning narratives that made her the hero and me the villain. Let her try, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. I'm done playing by their rules. As we drove away from my childhood home, I realized something had shifted. The hurt was still there, but underneath it was something new, something that felt a lot like freedom. The call from Aunt Vivian came while I was reviewing contracts at work. Her voice trembled with that particular brand of family concern that always made my stomach drop. Marley, sweetheart, I just wanted to check on you. Your mother told me about the situation with Jonah. I sat up straighter in my office chair. What situation? Oh, there was an awkward pause. Maybe I shouldn't have called. It's just, well, we're all worried about you. Breaking off an engagement is never easy. The pen I'd been holding snapped in my hand, blue ink spreading across my fingers like a bruise. I'm sorry, what? Lillian said you and Jonah had a terrible fight. Something about him being controlling about the wedding plans? And with everything happening with Delilah's promotion, I closed my eyes, counting backward from 10 like my therapist had taught me. It didn't help. Aunt Viv, who exactly has Mom told this to? Well, she hesitated. It came up at Bridge Club yesterday. And I believe she mentioned it at Uncle Robert's birthday dinner last weekend. And of course, she had to explain why she was canceling the engagement party reservations. She what? The words came out as a whisper, but they felt like they were being ripped from my throat. Oh dear. I've upset you. I just thought. Well, your mother seemed so certain. My phone buzzed with another incoming call, Nolan's face flashing on the screen. Aunt Viv, I have to go. But nothing Mom told you is true. Nothing. I switched calls, my hands shaking. Nolan now isn't. Check your email, he cut in. Right now. I pulled up my inbox, finding his message at the top. It contained a forwarded invitation to Delilah's promotion celebration at the Grove. On the 23rd. My date. Keep reading, Nolan said grimly. The invitation mentioned a special announcement from the guest of honor. At the bottom was a personal note from my mother. We're so pleased to be able to use this beautiful venue now that it's available. Sometimes disappointments lead to better opportunities. I'm going to be sick, I muttered. Want me to kill them? I know people. Well, I know people who've watched crime documentaries. A notification popped up on my screen, another email, this time from my cousin Sarah. So sorry to hear about you and Jonah. Mom said Aunt Lillian is devastated. Then another. Thinking of you during this difficult time. And another. If you need someone to talk to about the breakup. My phone buzzed again, a text from Delilah. Sorry, everyone's finding out about your relationship problems, sis. But maybe this is for the best. You've always rushed into things without thinking them through. I stood up so quickly my chair rolled back and hit the wall. Nolan, I have to go. Where are you going? To fix this. I grabbed my purse and headed for the elevator, ignoring the concerned looks from my coworkers. In the parking garage, I called Jonah. Hey, beautiful. How's your? My mother is telling everyone we broke up. A pause. What? She's telling the whole family are controlling, and we had a huge fight, and that's why she's canceling our engagement party. Which, by the way, she's already done, so she can throw Delilah a promotion party instead. The sound of his slow, controlled breathing told me he was as angry as I was. What do you need me to do? Meet me at the Grove in 20 minutes. Bring our contract and deposit receipts. On my way. As I drove, my phone kept buzzing with messages of sympathy and concern. Each one felt like another nail in the coffin of my relationship with my family. But underneath the hurt was something else, something harder and colder that had been building since that day in the bridal shop. My whole life, I'd tried to keep the peace. I'd smiled and stepped aside and swallowed my feelings because that's what good daughters do. But this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about Jonah, about our future, about the family we wanted to build together. My mother had finally gone too far, and she was about to learn that her dramatic daughter had inherited more than just her stubbornness. I'd learned from the best how to wage war, with a smile. The Grove's elegant facade came into view, and I pulled into the parking lot just as Jonah's truck arrived. He got out, holding a folder of documents, his face set in determination. Ready? He asked as I walked up. I took his hand, squeezing it tight. Time to write our own story. I hadn't planned on going to Aunt Vivian's weekly bridge club, but after 3 days of damage control, I needed answers. The familiar scent of her lemon squares and coffee hit me as I slipped in through the side door of her Victorian home, voices drifting from the sunroom. Such a shame about Marlowe, someone was saying. Lillian says the boy has quite a temper. Well, you know how she's always been. Another voice chimed in, Mrs. Peterson, my mother's oldest friend. So desperate for attention. Remember that scene she made at Delilah's graduation? I pressed my back against the wall, my heart pounding. The scene they were referring to was me having an asthma attack during the outdoor ceremony. Lillian's beside herself, Aunt Vivian added, her voice carrying that familiar note of concern. says Marlo's been acting erratically ever since Delilah's promotion news, threatening to go ahead with the engagement party even though the relationship is clearly over. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Aunt Vivian had always been my safe harbor in family storms. Now she was not just believing my mother's lies, but spreading them. "Did you hear what she did at the Grove, Mrs. Peterson asked, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "Showed up with that poor boy, making a scene about contracts and deposits. Delilah was there planning her celebration and had to witness the whole thing." My hands clenched into fists. I'd gone to the Grove to protect our venue booking, which we'd managed to do, thanks to our ironclad contract. Delilah hadn't been there at all. "Speaking of Delilah," someone else added, "I hear she's bringing someone special to her promotion party. That handsome senior partner she's been seeing." I stepped into the doorway, unable to stay hidden any longer. The room fell silent, 5 pairs of eyes turning to me in shock. "Marley," Aunt Vivian stammered, rising from her chair. "We weren't expecting." "Clearly not," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You were too busy discussing my failed relationship and unstable behavior." Mrs. Peterson had the grace to look embarrassed, but quickly recovered. "Dear, we're just concerned." "No," I cut her off. "You're just enjoying the show. Let me add to it." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the photo gallery. Here's Jonah and me yesterday, having dinner with his parents who flew in early for our engagement party. Here's the contract for the Grove, which we still hold. And here's the truth. My mother is lying to all of you because she can't stand that for once something isn't about Delilah. "Marlo," Aunt Vivian started, reaching for me. "Your mother would never. She already has. And you helped her." I turned to face my aunt directly. "You were supposed to be different. You were supposed to be on my side." "I am on your side. We all want what's best for you." "What's best for me?" I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "Do you even know what that means anymore? Or do you just automatically assume whatever my mother says must be right?" The room was so quiet you could hear the ticking of Aunt Vivian's antique clock. I looked at these women who'd known me my entire life, who'd watched me grow up in Delilah's shadow, who'd never once questioned the family narrative. "You know what? Keep your concern. Keep your gossip. Keep believing whatever stories make you feel better about watching a mother systematically tear down one daughter to prop up another. I'm done trying to prove my worth to any of you." As I turned to leave, Mrs. Peterson called out, "Marlo, wait. Perhaps we've been hasty. Save it for Bridge Club next week," I said without turning around. "I'm sure you'll all have plenty to discuss." In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My phone buzzed, a text from Delilah. "Heard you made quite a scene at Aunt Viv's. Again. Don't worry, I'll make sure everyone knows you're just stressed about the wedding. You know, the one that's actually happening." The message confirmed what I'd suspected. Delilah had orchestrated this whole thing, feeding information to our mother, who then spread it through her social network like poison. I started the car, a strange calm settling over me. They wanted drama? Fine. But this time, I'd write the script. The day before our engagement party, I sat in Jonah's parents' rental house, surrounded by people who actually wanted to celebrate us. The contrast to my own family's absence felt both liberating and crushing. "I still can't believe they're not coming," Sarah, Jonah's sister, said as she helped arrange centerpieces. "What kind of mother misses her daughter's engagement party?" "The kind who's throwing a fake promotion party for her other daughter at the same time," Nolan answered, earning himself a sharp look from Jonah. My phone buzzed, another message from Delilah. "Hope you're ready for tomorrow. Mom's invited practically everyone we know to my party. Guess they all made their choice about which event matters more." "You okay?" Jonah asked quietly, noticing my expression. Before I could answer, his mother Patricia walked in with a stack of photo albums. "Look what I brought. I thought we could display some pictures of you two at the party." As we flipped through the albums, I noticed something that made my throat tight. In every family photo, every holiday snapshot, every casual moment, Jonah's family was actually looking at each other, laughing together. Present. "Oh, this one's perfect," Patricia said, pointing to a picture from last Christmas. Everyone's smiling at the camera. Except us. Jonah finished grinning. In the photo, we were looking at each other, completely oblivious to the camera. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my father. Your mother's very hurt that you're going through with this. It's not too late to reconsider. I must have made some sort of sound because suddenly everyone was looking at me. That's it, Nolan declared, reaching for my phone. No more family drama until after tomorrow. Wait, I said, pulling up my messages. I need to respond to something first. I opened the family group chat and typed, since there seems to be some confusion about tomorrow's events, I wanted to clarify something. Our engagement party starts at 6 p.m. at the Grove. Anyone who chooses to attend Delilah's party instead is making a clear statement about where they stand. I won't be sending any more invitations after this. Marley, Sarah started, but I wasn't finished. I pulled up the photo I'd been saving, the one of Jonah and me at Christmas, lost in our own world while surrounded by people who loved us. I added it to the group chat with a simple message. This is what real family looks like. Your move. The responses were immediate and predictable. My mother. How dare you make us choose? Delilah. Always have to make everything about you, don't you? My father. You're being unreasonable. I turned off my phone. You know, Patricia said carefully, when I first met you, I wondered why someone so bright and loving seemed so unsure of herself. Now I understand. You've spent your whole life being told you're wrong for taking up space. Mom, Jonah warned, but she continued. No, this needs to be said. Marley, honey, I want you to look at these photos.
Really look at them. Do you know what I see?
I see my son happier than he's ever been. I see someone who fits into this family so naturally that sometimes I forget you haven't always been here. My vision blurred with tears. Tomorrow, she continued, people will make their choices. And those choices will tell you everything you need to know about who deserves to be in your life going forward. Nolan cleared his throat. Speaking of choices, I may have done something slightly devious. We all turned to look at him. I might have created a public Facebook event for Delilah's promotion party. And I might have invited some people from her firm, including her boss. Nolan, I gasped. She doesn't actually have the promotion yet. Exactly. His grin was wicked. Should make for an interesting evening. I should have felt guilty. Should have told him to undo it. Instead, I felt something else, something that felt dangerously close to satisfaction. Tomorrow's going to be messy, isn't it? Sarah asked. Jonah took my hand, squeezing it gently. Tomorrow's going to be exactly what it needs to be. Looking around at these people, my chosen family, I realized he was right. Whatever happened at the party, I already had everything I needed right here. My phone lit up on the table, Delilah's name flashing on the screen. For the first time in my life, I let it ring. The call came at 3 a.m, 2 days after our engagement party. My mother's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Are you happy now? She demanded. Is this what you wanted? I sat up in bed, Jonah stirring beside me. What are you talking about? Don't play innocent. Delilah's been suspended pending an ethics investigation. Her boss showed up at her party expecting to announce her promotion, a promotion she hadn't actually received yet. Do you have any idea what you've done? The room felt suddenly cold. Nolan's Facebook event. I hadn't thought. I didn't. She could lose her job, Marlo. Her entire career could be ruined because you couldn't stand someone else having the spotlight for once. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. Delilah, hope you're proud of yourself. Guess destroying my life was worth it to finally be mommy and daddy's center of attention. Another buzz. A group email from my father to the entire extended family. Due to recent unfortunate events caused by ongoing family conflicts, we regret to inform you that we will not be attending Marlo's wedding. We cannot in good conscience celebrate while one daughter deliberately sabotages another. Mom. I tried again, my voice shaking. I never meant. You never mean to do anything, do you? Things just happen around you, and somehow Delilah always ends up hurt. Well, congratulations. You've finally outdone yourself. The line went dead. I stared at my phone as messages started pouring in from relatives. Each one felt like another nail in a coffin I'd apparently built myself. What happened? Jonah asked, fully awake now. Before I could answer, my phone rang again. Nolan. Marley, I'm so sorry, he rushed out. I didn't think it would go this far. I just wanted to cause a little chaos, maybe embarrass her a bit. They're suspending her, I said numbly. There's an ethics investigation. Shit. He paused. But hey, maybe she deserves. Don't. I cut him off. Just don't. I ended the call, walking to the window of our apartment. The city lights blurred through tears I refused to let fall. We can fix this, Jonah said from behind me. Can we? Because from where I'm standing, they're right. I let this happen. I wanted her to hurt like I've hurt. And now, I press my forehead against the cool glass. I've become exactly what they always said I was. The jealous sister. The troublemaker. The one who ruins everything. My phone kept buzzing. Aunt Vivian. I'm disappointed in you, Marlo. I thought you were better than this. Delilah again. Attached is the official suspension notice. Hope it was worth it. By the way, I made sure everyone at work knows exactly who's responsible for this little stunt. This isn't your fault, Jonah insisted. You didn't create that event. But I knew about it. I could have stopped it. Instead, I sat there and felt glad. The admission tasted like ash in my mouth. What kind of person does that make me? He reached for me, but I stepped away. I need some air. Outside, the pre-dawn streets were empty. I walked without direction, my phone continuing its steady stream of accusations and condemnations. Each message painted a clearer picture of who I'd become, someone who'd let revenge poison everything it touched. A final text from my mother. Delilah's in tears. She may lose everything she's worked for. I hope you're satisfied with what your pettiness has accomplished. Don't contact us again. I found myself at the park where Jonah had proposed, sitting on the same bench where I'd once felt like my life was finally coming together. Now, everything was falling apart, and the worst part was knowing I'd helped it happen. My phone lit up one last time. An email from Delilah's firm. They were requesting a meeting with me to discuss my involvement in recent events. I laughed, the sound hollow and broken in the empty park. I'd wanted so badly to stop being the family victim that I'd turned myself into something worse, the villain of their story. And maybe, I realized as the sun began to rise over a day I didn't want to face, they'd been right about me all along. The law firm's conference room felt like an interrogation chamber. I sat across from Delilah's boss and 2 HR representatives, my hands steady despite the storm inside. MS. Grant, the senior partner began. We understand you have information about the incident at your sister's celebration. Before I could respond, the door burst open. Delilah stormed in, our mother right behind her. You don't get to do this, Delilah snarled. You don't get to sit there and play victim after what you did. MS. Grant, the younger MS. Grant, the HR director interjected. This meeting was meant to be private. No, I said, surprising myself. Let them stay. I think it's time we all heard the truth. Delilah laughed, that sharp, cruel sound I'd grown up dreading. The truth? You mean how you orchestrated this whole thing to ruin my career because you couldn't stand me getting a promotion? You didn't have the promotion, I said quietly. That's the truth you're running from. I was going to get it. Richard practically promised. I didn't create that Facebook event. I cut in, turning to the senior partner. But I did bring something else. I pulled out my phone, playing the voice message Delilah had left me last week. You think you're so special with your perfect engagement and your perfect fiancé? I told Richard the first already had the promotion. I told everyone, because I knew once I announced it, they'd have to give it to me. They always give me what I want. The room went deadly quiet. You recorded me? Delilah whispered.
No.
You recorded yourself. Every threatening message, every admission, every lie, you documented it all. I just saved them. Marlo, my mother warned, but I wasn't finished. I also have the texts where you admitted to spreading rumors about my engagement being called off. The ones where you threatened to make me pay for not canceling my party. Would you like me to share those too? Delilah's face had gone white. You're lying. Am I? I turned back to the senior partner. I came here today because I wanted you to know something. I didn't expose Delilah's lie about the promotion. She did that herself, by throwing a celebration for something she hadn't earned. By trying so hard to hurt me, she ended up hurting herself. This is ridiculous, my mother interjected. Delilah would never. Check her work emails, I said to the HR director. Check the dates. She started telling clients about her promotion weeks ago, making promises she couldn't keep, taking meetings she wasn't authorized to take. Delilah lunged across the table, but security was faster. As they escorted her out, she screamed, "You've always been jealous, always trying to take what's mine." "No," I said, standing. "I just stopped letting you take what's mine." My mother followed me into the hallway. "How dare you do this to your sister?" "I didn't do anything to her. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences of her own actions." "And yours?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done, Mom. Done being the family's scapegoat. Done watching you enable her worst behavior. Done pretending we're a normal family when we're anything but." "So, this is your revenge? Destroying your sister's career?"
No.
"This is me finally telling the truth. Delilah destroyed her own career. You destroyed our family. And I'm finally free of both of you." As I walked away, Delilah's voice echoed down the hallway. "You'll regret this. I'll make sure you regret this." But for the first time in my life, her threats felt empty. I stepped into the sunshine, where Jonah was waiting by the car. "How did it go?" I took a deep breath, letting it out slowly. It went exactly how it needed to. My phone buzzed a message from Nolan. "Just heard what happened. You okay?" I typed back. "Better than okay. I'm free." Behind us, I could hear my mother and sister's voices, still shouting, still trying to spin the narrative their way. But their words couldn't touch me anymore. I had finally written my own ending to their story, and it felt like victory. My wedding day arrived with the kind of perfect autumn sunshine that feels like a gift. Standing in front of the mirror in my dress, I noticed something different about my reflection. The woman looking back wasn't searching for approval anymore. "Ready?" Nolan asked, adjusting his bow tie. As my man of honor, he'd taken his duties seriously, including intercepting 3 separate attempts by my mother to contact me in the past week. Almost. I touched the empty space where my mother's pearls should have been, the ones she'd promised to every bride in our family. Instead, I wore Patricia's sapphire earrings, something borrowed that felt more like something found. The ceremony space at the Grove looked nothing like Delilah's failed party 6 months ago. Jonah's family filled the front rows, along with friends who'd stood by us through everything. The empty seats on my side told their own story, but somehow they didn't hurt anymore. As I walked down the aisle alone, my father's text declining to attend had been brief and final. I caught glimpses of familiar faces. Aunt Vivian, who'd shown up this morning with tears and apologies, sat quietly in the back. A few cousins who'd chosen to hear my side of the story. Even my mother's best friend, Mrs. Peterson, who'd surprised everyone by publicly defending me after the truth about Delilah's lies came out. Jonah waited at the altar, and the look in his eyes made everything else fade away. During the reception, Nolan clinked his glass for the toast. When Marley first told me about Jonah, she said something I'll never forget. She said, "He sees me. Not the version of her that her family wanted, not the shadow of her sister, just her." Today, we're all seeing the real Marley, strong, loving, and finally, wonderfully free. Later, during our first dance, Jonah whispered, "Any regrets?" I thought about the cost of standing up for myself. Delilah had left the firm, her reputation in tatters. My mother hadn't spoken to me since the confrontation. Family gatherings would forever have a before and after, marked by my decision to stop playing my assigned role. "No," I said honestly. "Just clarity." As the night wound down, Sarah handed me an envelope that had been dropped off at the front desk. I recognized Delilah's handwriting immediately. "You don't have to read it," Jonah said quietly. But I did. Because that's the thing about family. Even when you break free, the threads still tug. "Dear Marley," it began. "I'm starting therapy. Real therapy, not the kind Mom always pushed to fix what she saw as problems. I'm learning about narcissistic family dynamics and golden child syndrome. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it yet. But I am asking for you to know that I see it now. All of it. What they did to you. What I did to you. What we all did to ourselves. Maybe someday we can talk about it. If not, I understand. Be happy, sister. You deserve it. I folded the letter carefully, tucking it into my wedding album. Not as an invitation back into the chaos, but as a reminder of how far I'd come. Dance with me? Nolan appeared, holding out his hand. Your husband's busy teaching your new niece how to dab, and it's getting embarrassing. As we swayed to the music, I caught sight of my reflection in the venue's windows. The same autumn sunshine that had greeted me this morning was setting now, painting everything in shades of gold and possibility. You know, Nolan said, following my gaze, revenge stories usually end with someone winning and someone losing. But this feels different. Because it's not about winning anymore, I realized. It's about choosing yourself. Later that night, as Jonah and I left for our honeymoon, my phone lit up with one final message from my father. Your mother may never understand, but I do. Be happy, Marlo. Be free. I turned off my phone without responding. Some doors needed to stay closed, at least for now. But others were opening, and through them, I could see a future where I wasn't defined by who I'd left behind, but by who I'd chosen to become. And that felt like the happiest ending of all.